All right, so today I want you to look at a map. I want you to trace your finger across the Middle East, past the Mediterranean, over the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, down into the Persian Gulf. And I want you to stop right there, because right now, in that specific corner of the globe, the geopolitical tectonic plates are shifting. We are no longer talking about diplomatic tension. We are no longer talking about strongly worded UN resolutions. We are talking about the raw, terrifying machinery of war waking up. If you have been watching the news, you might think you know what is happening. You might think this is just another chapter in a never-ending regional dispute. But it's not. What is happening right now is a fundamental breakdown of order, a systematic collapse of the rules of engagement. And it all begins deep inside one of the most secretive, complex, and dangerous political structures on Earth. It begins inside Iran. To understand the absolute chaos unfolding right now, you have to understand how power works in Tehran, because it is not a normal government. Imagine being the president of a nation. You are the face of the country. You handle the diplomacy. You negotiate the treaties. You are desperately trying to hold a fractured economy together under the crushing, suffocating weight of international sanctions. You are looking for an off-ramp, a way to breathe. But then you wake up to a nightmare. You discover that your own military, specifically the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has just launched a massive, coordinated, and highly lethal strike on a neighboring country. And the absolute most terrifying part? They didn't ask you. They didn't consult the civilian government. They didn't even give you a warning. They just pulled the trigger. Reports are flooding out of Tehran right now that the Iranian president is in a state of absolute, unadulterated fury. The civilian leadership has been completely blindsided. And this is the ultimate danger, because what we are witnessing is not just a military operation. It is a mutiny in all but name. The IRGC is no longer acting as an arm of the state. It is operating as a rogue entity, a deeply radicalized, heavily armed state within a state. When a military force possessing advanced ballistic missiles and drone swarms stops listening to its own government, the entire region enters a catastrophic danger zone. The red phone doesn't work anymore because the people answering the phone aren't the ones firing the missiles. And those missiles, they didn't just land anywhere. They targeted the United Arab Emirates. For months, the region had been holding its breath, clinging to a fragile, delicate ceasefire. The UAE had established itself as the untouchable sanctuary of the Middle East, a gleaming, hyper-modern hub of global finance, tourism, and international trade. The IRGC just shattered that sanctuary. Without warning, they allegedly unleashed a terrifying swarm of suicide drones and precision-guided missiles targeting Emirati infrastructure. This was not a miscalculation. This was a deliberate, calculated provocation. The IRGC wants to prove that no one is safe. They want to prove that the glass towers of Dubai and Abu Dhabi are within their reach. They want to break the economic confidence of the Gulf and force the international community to back down out of sheer terror. But instead of backing down, the West has decided to double down. Enter the United States Navy. The Pentagon didn't just issue a statement of condemnation. They activated a massive, theater-wide naval response. They are calling it Operation Freedom. And the theater of operations? The Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about this waterway before. 21 miles wide, carrying a quarter of the world's oil, the jugular vein of the global economy. Under Operation Freedom, the U.S. Navy has taken on the monumental task of escorting commercial shipping through this lethal gauntlet. But the IRGC is not backing away. In fact, they are escalating. Right now, as we speak, American Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers are operating in a highly hostile, claustrophobic environment. They are actively tracking Iranian drones buzzing their airspace. They are locking onto missile telemetry, and they are facing the infamous IRGC fast boats. These are highly maneuverable, heavily armed small vessels designed for one specific purpose: swarm tactics. They dart in and out of the shadows, harassing American multi-billion-dollar warships, playing a deadly game of chicken on the open ocean. It is a powder keg. A single miscalculation by a stressed 19-year-old radar operator, a single warning shot that goes wide, and you have a naval war that could shut down the global economy in a matter of hours. But while the world watches the water, military analysts are watching the sky. Because the skies over the Gulf are telling a very dark, very ominous story. Over the last several days, flight tracking data has revealed a massive, unprecedented influx of American military hardware moving into the United Arab Emirates and allied Gulf nations. But it's not just fighter jets, it's what is flying behind the fighter jets: aerial refuelers, the KC-135 Stratotankers, the KC-46 Pegasus, massive flying gas stations. Now, why is that important? Why should you care about refueling planes? Because in the brutal mathematics of modern warfare, you do not deploy massive fleets of aerial refuelers unless you are preparing for something huge. You bring in the tankers when you are planning to keep your bombers in the air for extended periods. You bring them in when you are planning to run continuous, long-range, relentless strike packages. The United States isn't just sending a defensive shield. They are building an offensive spear. The logistical infrastructure for a massive kinetic air campaign is being locked into place as we speak, and the IRGC knows it, which brings us to the most mysterious, cinematic element of this entire crisis: the explosions. Over the past 48 hours, the southern coast of Iran has been rocked by violent, unexplained detonations. We are talking about massive blast in Bandar Abbas, explosions on the island of Qeshm, plumes of black smoke rising into the sky over Iranian coastal bases. Now pay very close attention to those locations. Bandar Abbas and Qeshm are not random civilian towns. They are the absolute nerve centers of the IRGC Navy. These are the bases where they house their fast attack boats, where they store their anti-ship cruise missiles, where they launch their drones. And suddenly, they are blowing up. Nobody is officially taking credit. The Iranian state media is trying to downplay it. The United States is completely silent. Israel is offering no comment. But the timing is impossible to ignore. Is it internal sabotage? Has the civilian government authorized covert action to creeler its own rogue military? Or is this the handiwork of foreign intelligence? Special operations teams slipping into the coast in the dead of night, planning charges, and sending a very clear, very violent message to the IRGC commanders. You are not safe in your own backyard. We know where your weapons are, and we can touch them whenever we want. This shadow war is rapidly spilling out into the light, and as the physical pressure builds in the Gulf, the political pressure in Washington is reaching a boiling point. Because you cannot analyze this situation without looking at the political rhetoric coming from the top. Donald Trump has entered the chat, and his messaging is as aggressive, direct, and unyielding as you would expect. He is not talking about containment anymore. He is talking about dismantling the Iranian regime's ability to function. Trump is pointing a massive spotlight directly at Iran's oil infrastructure. He is pointing at their underground missile silos. And most critically, he is pointing at their nuclear program. His stance is absolute. He has declared that Iran must never, under any circumstances, reach nuclear breakout capability. And he is essentially laying out a targeting list on public television. He is suggesting that to stop a rogue regime, you don't fight their boats in the water. You hit them where it actually hurts. You hit their energy sector. You destroy the oil facilities that fund the IRGC. You cut the financial head off the snake. It is the doctrine of maximum pressure, resurrected and placed on steroids. And this rhetoric is gaining serious, dangerous traction in Washington. Look at Senator Lindsey Graham. He is taking the escalation a massive step further. Graham isn't just talking about bombing oil fields. He is talking about the two words that terrify the Iranian supreme leader more than anything else: regime change. Graham is publicly suggesting that the United States should begin actively arming anti-regime uprisings inside Iran. Think about the internal dynamics we talked about earlier. The civilian government is fractured. The IRGC is acting alone. The Iranian economy is in shambles, and the Iranian people have been protesting, bleeding, and dying in the streets for years, desperate for freedom. Graham and Trump are looking at that internal chaos and seeing an opportunity. Trump himself has heavily hinted that a well-armed civilian population inside Iran could be the ultimate weapon against the Ayatollahs. This is an incredibly high-risk, high-reward strategy. The United States is openly discussing pouring weapons into an already unstable country to trigger a full-scale civil war. It is a strategy designed to force the IRGC to look inward, to fight for its own survival on the streets of Tehran, rather than launching missiles at Dubai or harassing ships in the Strait of Hormuz. But while Washington debates the politics of regime change, Jerusalem is preparing the strike packages. Israel is not waiting for a civil war. Israel is not interested in playing a long, drawn-out game of economic attrition. For the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, the Iranian strike on the UAE was the final proof they needed. It proved that the IRGC is completely unhinged and willing to attack its neighbors without hesitation. And for Israel, a rogue IRGC is an existential threat. Israeli media is currently saturated with leaks and reports detailing deep, granular coordination between the IDF and the Pentagon. They are mapping out the retaliation. And we aren't talking about symbolic strikes on empty warehouses in the Syrian desert. The targets being discussed are the crown jewels of the Iranian military machine: launch sites, drone manufacturing facilities, command and control bunkers hidden deep inside mountains, and the critical energy grids that power the IRGC's operations. Israel operates under a doctrine of preemptive survival. If they believe the IRGC is preparing to point those missiles toward Tel Aviv, they will not wait for the launch. They will strike first. They will strike hard. And they will attempt to completely decapitate the Iranian military infrastructure in a matter of hours. So, where does all of this leave us? I want you to take a step back and look at the entire board. Look at all the moving pieces. You have an Iranian president who has lost control of his own military. You have the IRGC, heavily armed, acting completely autonomously and striking the economic heart of the UAE. You have a shattered, broken ceasefire. You have the United States Navy locked into a claustrophobic, high-tension standoff in the Strait of Hormuz, dealing with drone swarms and fast boats. You have a massive armada of aerial refuelers and bombers staging in the Gulf, preparing the logistics for war. You have unexplained, devastating explosions ripping through Iranian coastal bases. You have Donald Trump and Lindsey Graham publicly advocating for the destruction of Iran's oil economy and the arming of a civilian uprising. And you have Israel with its finger hovering over the launch button, coordinating a massive preemptive strike package. We are no longer dealing with a what-if scenario. The fear of a wider, uncontrollable regional war is no longer a talking point for political pundits. It is the immediate, breathing reality of the Middle East. If the IRGC continues to push against American destroyers, if another drone slips through the defenses and hits a skyscraper in Dubai, if Israel decides that the nuclear clock has run out, the window for diplomacy doesn't just close, it shatters. This is a pressure cooker that has been sealed shut with the heat turned up to the absolute maximum. We are watching a strategic chess match where the pieces are being replaced by high explosives, where every single statement, every radar blip, every ghost explosion on the coast is a signal. The world is watching the Strait of Hormuz because they understand the stakes. If it explodes there, the shock waves will not be contained to the desert. They will ripple outward. They will hit the global supply chains. They will hit the energy markets. They will drag superpowers into a conflict that no one truly wants, but that no one seems able to stop. The IRGC has decided to play the most dangerous game imaginable. They believe they can exploit the geography of the Gulf, weaponize their asymmetry, and break the will of the West. But with Operation Freedom in full swing, with massive military assets surrounding them, and with the Israeli Air Force waiting in the wings, the IRGC may have committed the ultimate geopolitical miscalculation. The internal anger of their own president is going to be the absolute least of their worries if a combined U.S.-Israeli strike package crosses into their airspace to settle the score. So yeah, that is the stark, unvarnished reality of the situation. It is intense, it is highly complicated, and it is moving at a speed that is terrifying. I wanted to give you this full, immersive breakdown because when the world starts moving this fast, surface-level news isn't enough. You need to understand the why behind the what. You need to understand that this isn't just about a few rogue missiles. It is about a deeply fractured regime at war with itself. It is about a global economy entirely dependent on a 21-mile strip of water. And it is about a military buildup that looks disturbingly like the eve of a historic, region-altering conflict. Stay sharp, keep your eyes on the data, don't let the noise distract you from the actual movements. The real story isn't always in the press briefings. It's in the flight paths of the tankers. It's in the rogue commanders making decisions in the dark. It's in the silent, unexplained explosions on the coast of Bandar Abbas. It is a massive amount of information to process. But in a world this volatile, in a world this tightly connected, being deeply, unapologetically informed is your only real defense. I'll keep tracking the naval movements. I'll keep analyzing the satellite feeds. And I'll keep bringing you the truth behind the headlines. Thanks for sticking through this deep dive with me. I know it's a heavy, dark topic, but right now, it is the only topic that matters. Take care of yourselves, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.